choose me for more than a night. Not because I was unkind or difficult, not because I didn't try, but because every man who'd looked at me in the 3 years since the accident had done the same mental calculation, the same quiet assessment of whether I was worth the complications that came with dating someone who wore a prosthetic leg beneath her jeans. The answer was always no. Sometimes it took a week for them to realize it, sometimes a month. Once, almost 3 months, which had been just long enough for me to start imagining a future before he sat me down in a coffee shop and explained, very gently, that he just didn't think he could be there for me the way I deserved. As if my body was a burden he was doing me a favor by refusing to carry. By 24, I had learned to expect the moment when interest turned to pity, when attraction curdled into obligation. I had learned to see it coming in the way. Their eyes would drop to my leg when I walked. In the careful way they'd slow their pace without asking. In the slow realization that being with me meant understanding phantom pain at 3 a.m., prosthetic adjustments, and explaining to their friends and family that yes, she lost her leg. No, it's permanent. Yes, I'm sure. I had learned that most people could handle the idea of disability in the abstract. They could retweet inspirational quotes and admire Paralympic athletes, and donate to veteran charities. What they couldn't handle was the reality of it in their bed, in their life, in their future. So I stopped expecting anything different. I built a small, careful life that didn't require anyone else's approval. I worked remotely as a medical transcriptionist, converted my grandmother's old house into something I could navigate, adopted a three-legged cat I named Pixel because misery loves company, and because he was the only living thing that didn't look at my prosthetic and recalculate my value. And I told myself I was content. I told myself that wanting to be chosen, really chosen, not pitied or tolerated or temporarily accepted, was a fantasy I'd outgrown along with my left leg below the knee. Then Kale Volkov walked into my life like a storm system, dark and inevitable, and everything I thought I knew about my place in the world shattered under the weight of his attention. This is the story of how a man everyone feared taught me that being broken doesn't mean being worthless, and how I learned that sometimes the most dangerous choice you can make is believing you deserve to be loved. The accident happened on March 3rd, 2019. I was 21, a junior at State studying physical therapy, which is ironic enough that I don't need to elaborate on it. I was driving home from a late shift at the campus rec center when a semi-truck ran a red light at the intersection of Coleman and Fifth. I don't remember the impact. I remember the light turning green. I remember starting to accelerate. Then I remember waking up in a hospital room with my mother crying and a surgeon explaining words like crush injury and below-knee amputation and prosthetic fitting. The truck driver survived without a scratch. I woke up with my left leg gone and a 100% certainty that my life would never be the same. After 6 months of healing, prosthetic fittings that left me frustrated and tearful, physical therapy sessions where I had to relearn how to walk, and more pain than I thought a human body could process, I had a new normal. I was an amputee who wore a prosthetic leg and had to plan my life around socket adjustments, skin irritation, and the constant awareness that my body was now part flesh, part titanium, and carbon fiber. I was 22 when I finally accepted it. 22 when I dropped out of school because navigating campus with a new prosthetic while dealing with phantom pain and socket issues felt impossible. 22 when I moved into my grandmother's house after she passed, because it was single story and she'd left it to me, and I couldn't afford anywhere else. 22 when I started teaching myself medical transcription from YouTube videos, because it was something I could do from home. Something that didn't require me to walk miles across a campus built for people whose bodies cooperated. 22 when I went on my first date after the amputation and realized, halfway through dinner, that he'd only asked me out because his church had a ministry for helping wounded warriors, and he'd assumed I was a veteran. I wasn't. I was just a girl who'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. I didn't go on a second date with him, but I went on other dates. Over the next 2 years, I tried. I wanted to believe that someone could see past the prosthetic, past the occasional limp when my leg was bothering me, past the reality that some days I needed to take the prosthetic off and rest because my residual limb was swollen or painful. There was Ethan, who lasted 2 weeks before admitting he just wasn't ready for something this complicated. We'd been talking about what movies we liked. There was Lucas, who made it a month before his sister, called me to explain that her brother needed someone who could keep up with his active lifestyle. I hiked. I swam. I did yoga. Apparently, that wasn't active enough. There was Adrian, who I actually liked, who seemed different, who lasted almost 3 months before I overheard him telling his friend that he felt trapped because you can't exactly dump a girl with one leg without looking like a complete asshole. I broke up with him the next day, just to make it easier for him. He looked relieved. By the time I turned 24, I'd been on 14 dates with 11 different men. Most of them were kind. Most of them meant well. None of them chose me. Not for keeps. Not when it came down to building something real. So I stopped trying. I threw myself into work. I got good at medical transcription. Fast, accurate, reliable. I started making decent money. I fixed up my grandmother's house, installed a walk-in shower, made sure the floors were smooth enough that I wouldn't catch my prosthetic foot on anything, turned the spare bedroom into a home office. I made friends with my neighbors, Mrs. Park, who was 76, and brought me Korean side dishes when she made too much. Isaiah and Quinn, the couple 3 doors down who invited me to dinner parties where no one treated me like inspiration porn. I adopted Pixel from the shelter, this scrappy gray tabby who was missing his back left leg from a car accident, and who understood, on some fundamental level, that we were the same kind of broken. I built a life. It was small. It was quiet. It was mine. And I told myself it was enough. The first time I saw Kale Volkov, I didn't know who he was. It was a Tuesday in late September, unseasonably hot for the Northeast, and I was at the post office trying to mail a package to a client. The post office was not accessible. There were 3 steps at the entrance and no ramp, so I was taking them slowly, one at a time, my prosthetic foot landing solidly on each step while I held the railing and the package. The line was long. My residual limb was starting to ache from the heat and humidity. Swelling was always worse in hot weather. The woman behind the counter was moving at the speed of continental drift. I was focused on not dropping anything when I felt eyes on me. I'd gotten used to that sensation. People staring, people curious, people trying to figure out if I was wearing a prosthetic or if they were imagining things. Usually I ignored it. But this was different. This wasn't curiosity or pity. This was assessment. I looked up. He was standing near the door, watching me. Tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and gray eyes that looked like winter itself. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my car, and there was something about him that made everyone else in the post office seem slightly out of focus. And he was staring at me like I was a problem he was trying to solve, not with pity, not with curiosity, with focus. I looked away, uncomfortable. When I glanced back a minute later, he was gone. I didn't think about him again until 3 days later when I saw him at the grocery store. Sahay ni fachans urkfao sa chahakashki. Tisahao shiwa sa nashia sa. Kahaka sa mishra at sa felitsa gien pakawashe. The grocery store closest to my house was a small independent market owned by a Korean family who'd been in the neighborhood for 30 years. It wasn't the cheapest option, but the aisles were wide and the floors were smooth. No weird transitions or uneven surfaces that might catch my prosthetic foot. I was in the produce section, reaching for a bag of apples on a high shelf, standing on my toes, which meant putting most of my weight on my prosthetic side, when a hand reached past me and grabbed it. I turned, ready to thank whoever it was, and froze. It was him, the man from the post office. Up close, he was even more imposing, not just because of his height, but because of the way he carried himself, like he owned whatever space he occupied and expected everyone else to acknowledge it. He held out the apples. "These the ones you wanted?" His voice was deep, with a slight accent I couldn't place. Eastern European, maybe Russian. I, yes, thank you. He placed them carefully in my cart. His eyes dropped briefly, taking in my gait, the way I stood, the slight asymmetry that came with wearing a prosthetic, then back to my face. No pity, no awkwardness, just acknowledgement. "You were at the post office," he said. It wasn't a question. "So were you. They need to install a ramp. Those steps are dangerous for anyone with mobility issues." I blinked. "That's, yes, they do." He nodded once, like we'd settled something, then turned and walked away. I stood there for a full minute, trying to figure out what had just happened. I saw him twice more that week. Once at the coffee shop where I sometimes worked when my house felt too small. He was at a corner table talking on the phone in what sounded like Russian, his voice low and intense. He glanced up when I came in, made eye contact, and gave me a single nod before returning to his conversation. Once at the Thai restaurant where I picked up takeout every Friday. He was leaving as I was arriving. He held the door for me, not in the performative way some people did, not making a big show of it, just holding it, waiting until I was through, then leaving. Each time, there was that same assessment in his eyes, like he was cataloging information, filing me away. It should have been creepy. It probably was creepy, but it didn't feel threatening. It felt attentive. I asked Mrs. Park about him the next time she brought me food. "There's this man," I said, accepting the container of japchae she'd made. "Tall, gray eyes, expensive suits. I keep seeing him around the neighborhood. Do you know who he is?" Mrs. Park's face went very still. "You stay away from that man," she said. "Why? Who is he?" "Kale Volkov. He owns half the neighborhood. Maybe more." She lowered her voice. "He's not a good man, Elena. His family, they do very bad things." "What kind of bad things?" She shook her head. "The kind you don't talk about if you're smart. Just stay away from him. Promise me." I promised. But I thought about him that night, about the way he'd handed me those apples, about the fact that he'd noticed the post office needed a ramp, about the way he looked at me like I was a person, not a problem. 2 weeks later, on a Wednesday evening in mid-October, someone knocked on my door. It was late, almost 9. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and saw two men in dark suits standing on my porch. My heart started hammering. "Yes," I called through the door. "Miss Morrison, we're here on behalf of Mr. Volkov. He'd like to speak with you." "About what?" "He didn't say. Just asked us to see if you'd be willing to meet with him." "Tell him no thank you." There was a pause. Then, "He said you might say that. He asked me to give you this." A business card slid under my door. I picked it up. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, Kyle Volkov, and a phone number. Nothing else. "He said to call if you change your mind," the voice said through the door. Have a good evening, Miss Morrison. I heard footsteps walking away. I stood there holding the card, my hands shaking slightly, trying to decide if I was curious or terrified. Probably both. I didn't call him. For 3 days, that card sat on my kitchen counter, and I didn't call him. I told myself it was because I didn't need complications from a man Mrs. Park said was dangerous. Because I had a good life, a quiet life, and I didn't need to invite trouble into it. But the truth was simpler. I didn't call because I was afraid of what it meant that he'd sent his people to my house. Not afraid for my safety, afraid of what it meant that someone like him, someone powerful and feared and according to Mrs. Park, not good, had noticed me enough to want to talk to me. People didn't notice me, not like that, and the ones who did usually wanted something. On Saturday morning, I was working at the coffee shop when someone sat down across from me. I looked up from my laptop. Kale Volkov was sitting in my booth, wearing dark jeans and a black sweater, looking at me with those same assessing gray eyes. "You didn't call," he said. My heart was racing. "I didn't think I needed to." "My men scared you." "A little." "I apologize for that. I should have come myself." "Why didn't you?" "I thought it might be less intimidating." "I was wrong." He gestured to my laptop. "Am I interrupting your work?" "Yes." "Would you like me to leave?" I should have said yes. Should have sent him away and gone back to my safe, small life. Instead, I heard myself say, "No, you can stay." He settled back in his seat, and I noticed that several other people in the coffee shop were watching us. Some looked nervous, some looked curious. Everyone was very aware of his presence. "You've been asking about me," he said. "Mrs. Park told me to stay away from you." "Mrs. Park is a wise woman. You should listen to her." "And yet, here you are." "Here I am." He tilted, his head slightly. "Why do you think I wanted to meet you?" "I have no idea." "I want to hire you." Whatever I'd been expecting, it wasn't that. "Hire me?" "You're a medical transcriptionist. I have several doctors and clinics in my organization. They need someone reliable, someone discreet, someone who can work remotely and handle sensitive information." "You want me to transcribe medical files?" "Yes. For the Russian Mafia." He smiled slightly. "I prefer private enterprise." "Mrs. Park said you're dangerous." "I am." "Then why would I work for you?" "Because I pay extremely well. Because the work is legitimate and you'd be doing nothing illegal. And because I think you're smart enough to know that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is let fear make your decisions for you." I stared at him. "Is that a threat?" "No, it's an observation." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and set it on the table. "This is a contract. Standard terms, generous pay, complete discretion guaranteed. Read it. Think about it. If you're interested, call the number on the card." He stood up. "Wait," I said. "Why me? There are thousands of transcriptionists. Why track me down specifically?" He looked at me for a long moment. "Because you're good at your job. Because you keep to yourself. Because you understand what it means to be underestimated." He paused. "And because when I handed you those apples 2 weeks ago, you didn't treat me like I was doing you a favor. You just said thank you and moved on. Do you know how rare that is? People treat you differently. Everyone treats me differently. They're afraid, or they want something, or they're performing gratitude they don't feel." He gestured to me. "You just wanted apples. I didn't know who you were." "I know. That's why it mattered." He walked away, leaving me with an envelope and more questions than I'd had 5 minutes ago. Contract was straightforward. Transcribe medical files from various clinics and private practices, maintain strict confidentiality, work remotely at my own pace, get paid triple my current rate. There was nothing illegal about it. The clinics were real, licensed, legitimate. The work was exactly what I already did, just with better pay. I called the number on the card. He answered on the first ring. Elena, how do you know my name? It's on your business registration. You're not hard to find. Right. I took a breath. I'll do it. The transcription work. But I have conditions. Name them. I don't want to know anything about your other business. I transcribe medical files. That's it. I don't want to be involved in anything else. Agreed? And if I ever feel unsafe or uncomfortable, I can quit without explanation. Agreed. And you don't send men to my house again. If you need to talk to me, you call first. Agreed. He paused. Is that everything? For now. Then welcome aboard, Elena. You'll receive your first files tomorrow. He hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, wondering what I'd just agreed to. The work was exactly what he'd promised. Medical files arrived in secure, encrypted folders. I transcribed them. I sent them back. Money appeared in my account like clockwork. The content was boring. Standard doctor visits, prescriptions, routine procedures. Nothing suspicious. Nothing illegal. Just well-paying, straightforward work. I didn't see Kale for 3 weeks. Then, on a Thursday afternoon in November, he knocked on my door. I opened it, surprised. Hi, I said. Hi, I wanted to check in. Make sure everything is working smoothly with the transcription. It's fine. Everything's fine. Good. He hesitated. May I come in? I should have said no. Instead, I stepped back and let him into my house. He looked around my living room with the same assessing gaze he'd used on me at the post office. You've made this accessible, he said, noting the smooth floors, the grab bars in strategic places, the furniture arranged with clear pathways. It was my grandmother's house. I modified it after she passed. You did the work yourself? Most of it. Hired contractors for the major stuff. He nodded, running his hand along one of the grab bars. Good installation. Solid. Thank you? He smiled slightly. Sorry. I notice things like that. Structural integrity. Safety features. He turned to look at me. You live alone? Me and Pixel. Pixel? On cue, my cat appeared from the bedroom, hopping across the floor on his 3 legs. Kale's expression softened in a way I hadn't seen before. He's missing a leg, he observed. Car accident. We're a matched set. May I? I nodded. He crouched down, and Pixel, who usually hated strangers, walked right up to him and started purring. Traitor. Kyle scratched behind his ears, and I watched this feared crime boss sit on my living room floor, petting my 3-legged cat, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. I had a dog when I was a kid, he said. 3 legs. Got hit by a car when I was 12. Best dog I ever had. What was his name? Volchok. Means little wolf in Russian. I smiled. That's sweet. My grandmother said that sometimes the broken things are the strongest. They've already survived the worst. He stood up, brushing cat hair off his jeans. I should let you get back to work. Kale. He stopped. Why are you really here? The transcription is going fine. You didn't need to check in person. He looked at me for a long moment. No, he finally said. I didn't. Then he left, and I stood in my doorway, watching him drive away, feeling like something had shifted, that I didn't quite understand yet. He started coming by regularly after that. Once a week, sometimes twice, always with a reason. He needed to drop off a new encrypted drive. He had a question about a file. He wanted to make sure the payment system was working. But the reasons were thin, and we both knew it. We'd end up talking. About nothing important. About books. About the neighborhood. About Pixel's ongoing war with the squirrels in my backyard. He never asked about my prosthetic directly. Never treated me like I was fragile or pitiable. He just showed up. Consistently, like my presence was something he valued. In mid-December, on a particularly bad day when my residual limb was swollen and painful and I'd had to take my prosthetic off early, he arrived with groceries. I answered the door without my prosthetic on, balancing on one leg with my hand on the doorframe. "Bad day?" he asked, taking in my situation immediately. "The worst. Socket isn't fitting right. My leg is swollen. Have you eaten?" "Not hungry." "That's not what I asked." I sighed. "No, I haven't eaten. I'm making you dinner. Go sit down before you fall over." "Kale?" "Elena, go sit down." I was too tired and in too much pain to argue. I hopped to the couch. I'd gotten good at moving around without my prosthetic when I needed to, and elevated my residual limb on a pillow. I heard him in the kitchen, unpacking groceries, starting to cook. After a few minutes, he came back with an ice pack wrapped in a towel. "For the swelling," he said, gently placing it on my residual limb. I looked up at him, surprised. "How did you know?" "My uncle lost his leg in the war. Below knee, like you. I remember what helped him on bad days." He went back to the kitchen without another word. He made borscht from scratch. Rich, dark, fragrant. We ate in my living room, my residual limb still elevated, Pixel curled up next to me. "This is really good," I said. "My grandmother's recipe. She'd haunt me if I ruined it." "Is she still alive?" His face darkened. "No. She died when I was 19. Heart attack." "I'm sorry." "Me too." He was quiet for a moment. She was the only person who ever told me I could be something other than what my father wanted me to be. "What did he want you to be?" "Exactly what I am." He said it without pride or shame, just fact. We ate in silence for a while, then he asked, "Your grandmother, the one who left you this house, were you close?" "Very. She raised me when my parents couldn't get their shit together. She's the one who taught me that family is who shows up, not who shares your blood." "She sounds wise." "She was. She died 2 months before my accident." I looked down at my bowl. Sometimes I'm glad she didn't have to see me like this. "Like what?" "Broken. Less than whole." He set down his spoon and looked at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "You're not broken," he said. "You're adapted. There's a difference. Tell that to everyone who's decided I'm not worth the effort. They're fools." "Maybe. But there are a lot of fools. Doesn't make them right." He leaned back. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think you've spent so much time protecting yourself from people who couldn't see your value that you've started believing they might be right." The words hit harder than they should have. "That's not." "It is. You're brilliant at your job. You're independent. You've built a life on your own terms. You're kind to your neighbors and you rescue three-legged cats. And you make me laugh. Which doesn't happen often." He held my gaze. "But you've convinced yourself that all of that doesn't matter because your body works differently than other people's." "Easy for you to say. You don't know what it's like." "You're right. I don't. But I know what it's like to be judged for things you can't control. I know what it's like to have people see only one thing when they look at you." He stood up, gathering our plates. "The difference is, you let them define you. I don't." He went to the kitchen before I could respond. I thought about what he'd said for days afterward. About how I'd let other people's judgments become my truth. About how I'd made myself small because the world told me I should be grateful for scraps. The next time he came by, I was ready. I want to ask you something, I said. Ask. Why do you keep coming here? And don't tell me it's about the transcription work. He was quiet for a moment, then sat down across from me. At first, it was curiosity, he said. I saw you at the post office, taking those steps carefully, and I was angry. Angry that the world is built for people who don't need accommodations. Angry that people like you have to fight for basic accessibility. He paused. Then I saw you at the grocery store, and I realized you weren't fighting. You were just living, adapting, making it work. And that impressed you? It did. Most people in my world, when things get hard, they either give up or they make it everyone else's problem. You just handled it. He looked at me seriously. Then I started getting to know you, and I realized you weren't just strong or resilient, or any of those patronizing words people use. You were interesting. You were sharp and funny, and you didn't perform for me. People don't usually perform for crime bosses. They do constantly. They tell me what they think I want to hear. You tell me the truth. He reached out and took my hand, the first time he'd initiated physical contact beyond helping me with doors or groceries. I keep coming here because I like you, Elena. Because you make me feel like a person instead of a weapon. And because I haven't felt this comfortable around someone in a very long time. My heart was pounding. Kale, you don't have to say anything. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. But I did have something to say. I like you too, I said quietly. And it scares me. Why? Because everyone who's liked me has eventually decided I'm not worth the effort. And you could have anyone. Why would you choose someone like me? Because you're you. Because when I'm here, I'm not thinking about territory or obligations or the next threat. I'm just here. He squeezed my hand. And because you look at me and you don't see a monster, you see Kale. You're not a monster. A lot of people would disagree. They don't know you like I do. He smiled, a real smile that transformed his whole face. No, they don't. We didn't define what was happening between us. We didn't put a label on it or have a conversation about expectations. We just continued. He came by 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes he brought food. Sometimes he brought movies. Sometimes he just sat in my living room while I worked, reading or handling his own business, comfortable in the silence. It felt domestic in a way that should have scared me, but didn't. The first time we went out together was in early January. There was an art exhibit at the museum downtown. Local artists, accessible entrance, something I'd mentioned wanting to see. He picked me up on a Saturday afternoon, and I noticed he'd brought an SUV instead of his usual sedan. Easier to get in and out of, he explained when I asked. Higher seats, less stress on your prosthetic side. He'd thought about it, had researched it. That shouldn't have made my chest tight, but it did. The museum was perfect. Smooth floors, ramps instead of stairs, benches scattered throughout for when I needed to adjust my prosthetic or rest my residual limb. We spent 2 hours looking at paintings and sculptures, and Kale surprised me with his knowledge of Russian avant-garde art. My grandmother loved art, he explained. She'd take me to museums in Moscow when I was young, said that beauty was the only thing that made the rest of it bearable. The rest of what? The family business? The violence? The constant looking over your shoulder? He stopped in front of a painting of a woman reading by a window. She wanted something better for us. She died before she could make it happen. Is that why you're still in it? The family business? Partly. Mostly it's because it's all I know. It's what I'm good at. He looked at me. You're the first person who's ever made me think about what else I could be good at. Like what? I don't know yet, but I'm starting to think it might be worth finding out. People noticed us at the museum. I could feel their eyes, hear the whispers. Some recognized him. Kale Volkov didn't go unnoticed in public. Others were just curious about the unlikely pairing, the feared crime boss and the woman with the prosthetic leg. I waited for the pity, the judgment. But when I glanced at Kale, he was looking at me with such clear pride, like being with me was exactly where he wanted to be, that nothing else mattered. We had dinner after, at a small Russian restaurant he knew. The owner's an old friend, he said. Completely accessible. I checked. The owner, a bear of a man named Victor who had arms like tree trunks, greeted Kale warmly and gave me a kiss on each cheek like I was family. So this is her, he said to Kale in heavily accented English, the one who's got you smiling again. Kale shot him a look that would have terrified most people. Victor just laughed. We sat in a corner booth, and Victor brought us food we didn't order. You eat what I make, no arguing. And it was some of the best food I'd ever tasted. Halfway through the meal, an older woman approached our table. She was elegant, well-dressed, with sharp eyes that took in everything. Kale, she said in Russian, then switched to English. I heard you were seeing someone. I had to see for myself. He stood, kissing her cheek. Mrs. Lebedev, how are you? Old? Nosy? She looked at me with open curiosity. And you are? Elena Morrison. She's with me, Kale added, and there was a warning in his voice. Mrs. Lebedev smiled. I can see that. It's nice to meet you, dear. Kale, your grandmother would have liked her. She left before he could respond. I watched something complicated cross his face. That was a compliment, he said finally. Mrs. Lebedev doesn't give those lightly. We drove home in comfortable silence, and when he walked me to my door, he hesitated. Thank you for today, he said. I should be thanking you. You planned everything. I wanted to. I wanted to show you that this could work. Out in the world. Not just in your living room. Because you were worried I'd think it couldn't? Because I was worried you'd think I was ashamed of being seen with you. The honesty of it stole my breath. I don't think that, I said softly. I think you're the first person who's ever been proud to be seen with me. He cupped my face in his hand, his thumb brushing my cheek. I am proud. You make me want to be better than I am. Then he kissed me. It was soft, careful, perfect. It tasted like possibility and risk and everything I'd convinced myself I couldn't have. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. I'm all in, Elena. Whatever this is, I'm all in. If you are. I'm scared. Me too. Everyone's going to have opinions. Let them. Your world is dangerous. I'll keep you safe. What if... Elena. He pulled back to look at me. What if we just try? What if we stop catastrophizing and just see what happens? I thought about all the times I'd protected myself. All the times I'd said no before anyone could reject me. All the times I'd made myself small. Okay, I whispered. Let's try. Trying, it turned out, meant integrating our lives in small, deliberate ways. He started keeping clothes at my house. Just a few things. A toothbrush, a razor. I started keeping a bag packed for when I needed to stay at his place. His penthouse had better accessibility features than my house, which should have been embarrassing, but somehow wasn't. We established routines. Sunday breakfast, Wednesday night movies, Friday dinners, alternating between my cooking and his. We met each other's people. I had dinner with Isaiah and Quinn, who were suspicious at first, but warmed up when they saw how Kale looked at me. He introduced me to Victor and a few other business associates. His words. People who treated me with respect, because Kale made it clear that was the only option. We didn't talk about the other parts of his life. The dangerous parts. The illegal parts. That was the agreement. I transcribed medical files and pretended I didn't know what else he did with his days. It worked better than it should have. The first fight happened in February. I'd had a bad week. My prosthetic wasn't fitting right. I was getting pressure. Sores on my residual limb, and I was behind on work and frustrated with myself. Kale came over Wednesday night as usual, and I was short with him. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing." "Elena." I said nothing. "That's not true. Talk to me." "I don't want to talk. I want you to leave." He looked hurt, but he nodded. "Okay, I'll go, but I'm coming back tomorrow." "Don't." "Yes, I'm coming back." Because that's what people who care about each other do. They don't run when things get hard. He left, and I sat on my couch crying, hating my body, and hating that I'd taken it out on him. He showed up the next morning with coffee and pastries, and didn't say anything about the night before. "I'm sorry," I said immediately. "I was an asshole." "You were in pain. That's not an excuse." "No, but it's a reason." He sat down next to me. "Elena, I need you to understand something. When you're hurting, physically, emotionally, whatever, you don't have to be nice to me. You don't have to perform being okay. You can be mad and frustrated and short-tempered. I can handle it. Everyone says that until they can't. I'm not everyone." He took my hand. "But you have to talk to me. You can't just shut me out. That's the one thing I can't handle. I'm not used to people staying. Get used to it, because I'm not going anywhere." The first time I met someone from his other life, the dangerous part, was in March. We were at Victor's restaurant when a man in an expensive suit approached the table. He was younger than Kale, maybe mid-30s, with slicked back blonde hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Kale," he said in Russian, then switched to English. "I've been trying to reach you." "I'm having dinner, Roman." "I can see that." His eyes slid to me with thinly veiled contempt. "This her? The gimp you've been wasting time on?" The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. Kyle stood up slowly. "What did you just call her?" Roman Tosh seemed to realize his mistake. "I just meant, get out. Kale, get out before I break every bone in your fucking face." Roman left quickly. Kale sat back down, his jaw tight, his hands shaking slightly with barely controlled rage. "I'm sorry you had to hear that," he said. "It's not your fault. He works for me. That makes it my fault." He looked at me seriously. "If anyone in my organization ever speaks to you like that again, you tell me. Immediately." "Kale?" "I mean it, Elena. You tell me." I nodded, shaken. Later, I learned that Roman had been demoted and reassigned to a position in a different city, far from anything important. The message was clear. Disrespect Elena, and you disrespected Kale. By spring, we'd settled into something that felt like a relationship, even if we still hadn't named it. I'd started going to his place more often. The penthouse was stunning. Top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, completely accessible. He'd had it renovated, he said, after his grandmother died, and he wanted something that felt less like the family business and more like a home. We spent weekends there, cooking together, watching the city lights, existing in a bubble where his world and my prosthetic didn't matter as much as the fact that we made each other laugh. But the bubble couldn't last forever. The first real threat came in early April. I was working late when I heard breaking glass. My heart stopped. I grabbed my phone and texted Kale. "Someone's in the house." His response was immediate. "Lock yourself in the bathroom. I'm coming." I made it to the bathroom, moving fast on my prosthetic despite the late hour and the fact that I'd been about to take it off for the night and lock the door just as I heard footsteps in my living room. "We know you're here," a voice called in accented English. "We just want to talk." "Get out of my house." "Can't do that. We have a message for Kyle Volkov." My blood went cold. I heard them. moving through my house, opening doors, searching. Then I heard the front door slam open. Gunshots. Shouting. Silence. Kale's voice came through the bathroom door. Elena, it's me. You're safe. I unlocked the door with shaking hands. He looked terrifying, covered in blood that I was pretty sure wasn't his, eyes dark and furious. Are you hurt? He demanded. No. No, I'm fine. He pulled me into his arms and I could feel him shaking. I'm so sorry, he said against my hair. I'm so fucking sorry. Behind him, I could see two of his men dragging bodies out of my living room. I started to shake. He took me to his place that night. Wouldn't let me go back to my house. It's not safe, he said. It was never safe. Not if I'm with you. He flinched like I'd hit him. We didn't talk for the rest of the night. He set me up in his guest room, fully accessible, everything I could need, and left me alone. I didn't sleep. The next morning, he was sitting in his living room when I came out. I'm ending it, he said, without preamble. Ending what? This. Us. I'm getting you out. Kale. Last night shouldn't have happened. You were in danger because of me. I won't let that happen again. So you're just going to decide we're done? Without asking me? I'm protecting you. No. You're running away. I moved closer to him. Those men. They came to my house to get to you. That's not your fault. It is my fault. Everything in my life is dangerous. Everyone I care about becomes a target. I knew that, and I let myself want you anyway. So what? You're just going to walk away? Yes. Bullshit. He looked up, surprised. You don't get to decide you're too dangerous for me, I said, my voice shaking. You don't get to make that choice alone. This is my life, my risk, and I'm choosing you. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're scared. So am I. But I'm also tired of people deciding what I can and can't handle. I'm tired of being protected from my own choices. I sat down next to him. I love you, Kyle, and I know that means living with the risk. But I'd rather have you in the danger than safety without you. He stared at me. You love me? Of course I love you. I've loved you since you brought me ice for my residual limb and told me I wasn't broken. I just hadn't said it yet. Elena. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to upgrade security. You're going to make sure my house is safe. And then we're going to keep going. Because I'm not walking away from the best thing that's ever happened to me just because it's scary. He pulled me into his lap, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. I love you, he said against my neck. I love you so much it terrifies me. Good. Terror means it matters. He laughed, actually laughed, and kissed me like I was oxygen. After the break-in, everything changed. Not between us. Between us, things got deeper, more solid, more real. But Kale took the threat seriously. My house got a complete security overhaul. Cameras, alarms, reinforced doors and windows. He assigned men to watch the perimeter, though I never saw them. He also started teaching me how to protect myself. I can't be everywhere, he said one Sunday morning, but I can make sure you know how to handle things if I'm not there. So I learned how to shoot, how to identify threats, how to use everyday objects as weapons. It should have felt paranoid. Instead, it felt empowering. I wasn't helpless. I was prepared. In May, he asked me to move in with him. We were at his place, making breakfast, when he said it. I want you to live here. I stopped mid-scramble. What? Move in with me? Permanently? He turned off the stove and faced me. I know it's fast. I know you love your house. But I need you somewhere I can keep you safe. And I want to wake up next to you every morning. Kale? Before you say no, just think about it. This place is more accessible. The security is better. You'd have the whole second bedroom as an office. Pixel can come. I'm not asking you to give up your independence. I'm asking you to share my space. I looked around the penthouse. It was beautiful, safe, more accessible than anywhere I'd ever lived, but it was his space. What if it doesn't work? I asked quietly. Then we figure it out. Together. He took my hands. Elena, I'm not going anywhere. Whether you live here or at your house or on the moon, I'm in this. But I sleep better when you're close. Let me think about it. Take all the time you need. I thought about it for 2 days. Then I called Mrs. Park. I need advice, I said. About the Russian. How did you? Dear, the whole neighborhood knows. He's been here every day for months. And those men watching your house aren't exactly subtle. She paused. Are you happy? Yes. Does he treat you well? Better than anyone ever has. Then, what's the problem? He wants me to move in with him, and I want to say yes. But I'm scared. Of course you're scared. Love is terrifying. Her voice softened. But Elena, you've been alone for a long time. Maybe it's time to let someone share the load. What if he gets tired of me? What if you spend your whole life protecting yourself from what ifs and miss out on something real? She sighed. I told you to stay away from him. I still think his world is dangerous. But I've also seen the way he looks at you, and dear, that man would burn the world down to keep you safe. Maybe that's worth the risk. I said yes. Moving was easier than I expected. Kyle hired people to pack and transport everything, my clothes, my books, Pixel's tower, and toys. He cleared out half his closet and 3 drawers without me asking. He set up my office exactly the way I liked it. This is your space now too, he said. Change whatever you want. Make it feel like home. The first night, I lay in his bed, our bed, and felt like I'd stepped into someone else's life. Kale pulled me close. What are you thinking? That this doesn't feel real. Why not? Because girls like me don't get endings like this. We don't get the powerful man and the penthouse and the life where everything works. He tilted my face toward his. You're not getting an ending. You're getting a beginning. And you get it because you deserve it. Not because you're lucky. I am lucky though. So am I. Living together revealed the mundane intimacy I'd never experienced. Kale's morning routine. Up at 5, coffee, workout, shower. He was always quiet, always careful not to wake me. My bad prosthetic days. He learned to recognize them before I said anything, learned to bring me supplies for my residual limb without hovering, learned when I needed space and when I needed him close. His nightmares. He had them twice a week, always about his grandmother, always waking up in Russian. I learned to hold him until his breathing steadied, learned not to ask questions he wasn't ready to answer. My insecurities. They came in waves, especially on days when my prosthetic wasn't cooperating. He learned to talk me through them, to remind me that my worth wasn't tied to my mobility. We learned each other in the small, unglamorous ways that build a life. In June, he took me to meet his family. Fair warning, he said on the drive over. They're going to have opinions. About me? About everything. They're Russian. Having opinions is practically a religion. He squeezed my hand. But you're important to me, so they'll be respectful, or they'll answer to me. His family gathered every Sunday at his uncle's house, a sprawling property outside the city. When we arrived, I counted at least 20 people. Kyle's hand never left my back as he introduced me. His uncle Dmitri looked me up and down, then nodded. Kyle says you're smart, are you? I'd like to think so. Good. He needs someone who can keep up. He kissed my cheek. Welcome. His cousin Anya was more direct. You know what he does, right? What we all do? I know he has business I don't ask about. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with him. She studied me for a long moment, then smiled. Good answer. The women pulled me aside after dinner. We need to talk, Kyle's aunt Svetlana said. My stomach dropped. Okay. You're the first woman he's brought around since his grandmother died, she said. That means something. That means he's serious. I know. Do you love him? Yes. Enough to live with the danger, the secrecy, the fact that his world isn't normal? I thought about the break-in, the security, the guns, and the violence that lived in the shadows of his life. Yes, I said firmly. I love him enough. She nodded. Then you have our blessing and our protection. Your family now. On the drive home, Kale was quiet. That went well, I said. Did it? Your family likes me. Of course they do. You're perfect. I'm not perfect. You are to me. He glanced over at me. Thank you for today. I know it was a lot. It was worth it. They're your family. I want to know them. They can be overwhelming. So can you. I'm used to it. He laughed, and I felt something settle in my chest. This was real. This was happening. I was building a life with this man. In July, Kale left for a week. Business, was all he said. Out of the country. I can't take you with me. Is it dangerous? It's always dangerous. He cupped my face. But I'll be careful. And you'll be safe here. Roman will be in charge of security while I'm gone. Roman, the same Roman who'd called me a gimp, had been working to earn back Kale's trust. He'd apologized to me 3 separate times, awkwardly but sincerely. I don't like Roman. I know. But he's good at his job. And he knows that if anything happens to you, I'll kill him myself. He kissed me. I'll call you every night, and I'll be back Saturday. Promise. Promise. He called every night, as promised. But on Thursday, the call came at 2 a.m. instead of his usual 8 p.m. Elena. His voice was wrong, strained, tight. What's wrong? There's been a complication. I need you to listen carefully. My heart started racing. Someone's coming for you. Someone who wants to use you to get to me. Roman is going to take you somewhere safe until I get back. Kale. I need you to trust me, please. Just go with Roman and don't ask questions. When will you be back? Soon, I promise. His voice broke slightly. I love you, Elena. Remember that. Then he hung up. Roman showed up 10 minutes later. We need to go. Now. Where? Somewhere safe. That's all I know. I grabbed my emergency bag. Kyle had insisted I always keep one packed, and Pixel's carrier. I was already wearing my prosthetic, thank God. The cat too? Roman asked. The cat too. We drove, for 3 hours, ending up at a remote house in the woods. 2 of Kale's men were already there, securing the perimeter. You'll be safe here, Roman said. I'll be outside if you need anything. How long? Until Kale says otherwise. I stayed in that house for 3 days. No phone calls, no updates, just waiting. I tried not to panic. Tried to trust that Kale knew what he was doing. But by the 3rd day, I was imagining every worst-case scenario. Then, on Saturday evening, I heard a car. I looked out the window and saw Kale's SUV. He was out of the car before it fully stopped, moving toward the house like his life depended on it. I met him at the door, and he pulled me into his arms so hard I gasped. You're okay, he said against my hair. Thank God you're okay. I'm fine. What happened? Later. Right now, I just need to hold you. Later. After Roman and the others had left and we were alone in the safe house, he told me, there's a rival organization. They've been trying to move in on my territory for months. Last week, they made a move. Killed someone close to one of my associates. sent a message that they were coming for everyone we cared about. So you hid me. I couldn't risk it. I couldn't risk you. He looked broken. Elena, if something had happened to you because of me, but it didn't. This time. But there will be others. There are always others. He took my hands. I need you to understand what you've signed up for. This life, my life, it's violent. People will try to hurt you to hurt me. There will be times I have to send you away, times I can't tell you where I'm going or what I'm doing. I know. Do you? Do you really know what that means? I thought about the last 3 days. The fear, the uncertainty, the not knowing if he was alive or dead. Yes, I said firmly. I know, and I'm still choosing you. Why? Because you're worth it. Because what we have is worth it. I moved closer. Kale, I'm not naive. I know your world is dangerous, but my world, before you, was lonely. I'd rather have this, with all the risk, than go back to being alone. He kissed me like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. We went home the next day. Kyle's world had settled. The rival organization had backed down after he'd made it clear he wasn't someone to fuck with. But the threat would always be there. We both knew it. I'm making changes, he said a week later. Starting to transition out of some of the more dangerous aspects of the business. It'll take time, but I'm doing it. For me? For us. He looked serious. I want a future with you, Elena. A real future. Kids, maybe, if you want them. A life that isn't always looking over our shoulder. That means getting out of the parts of this business that make that impossible. That's a big change. You're worth a big change. Over the next year, Kale kept his promise. He started stepping back from the violent side of the business, focusing on legitimate enterprises, restaurants, construction companies, real estate development. He brought in people he trusted to handle the transition, made deals with former rivals to maintain peace. It wasn't easy. There were people who resented the changes, who thought he was going soft. He didn't care. Let them think what they want, he said. I've proven what I'm capable of. I don't need to keep proving it. We got engaged on a Tuesday in November, exactly 2 years after we'd met. We were at home, making dinner, when he got down on one knee in the middle of our kitchen. Elena Morrison, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. You make me want to be better than I am. You make me believe I can be better than I am. He held out a ring, simple, beautiful, perfect. Will you marry me? I was crying too hard to answer at first. Yes, I finally managed. Yes, of course, yes. We got married in spring. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. His uncle Dimitri's estate, flowers everywhere, Pixel in a tiny bow tie that he tolerated for approximately 3 minutes. When I walked down the aisle, slowly, on Kale's arm because my father wasn't in my life, and I wanted it to be him, I saw him cry for the first time. You're so beautiful, he whispered in Russian, then English. You're biased. I'm honest. Our vows were simple, I said. You saw me when I was invisible. You chose me when I was unchosen. You loved me not despite who I am, but because of who I am. You are my home, he said. You made me believe in second chances. You taught me that strength isn't about power, it's about resilience. You are my peace in a violent world. I will spend every day of my life choosing you. When we kissed, everyone cheered, and I felt chosen in a way I'd never felt before. We honeymooned in Russia, St. Petersburg, his grandmother's hometown. It was completely accessible, which he'd made sure of before booking anything. We spent 2 weeks eating incredible food, meeting distant relatives, visiting the Hermitage, and walking along the Neva River. I've never been this happy, I said one afternoon. Me neither. Are you scared it won't last? Every day. He pulled me closer. but I'm more scared of not trying. When we got home, I went back to work. Medical transcription, consulting for accessibility nonprofits, teaching adaptive self-defense classes for amputees. Cale continued his transition out of the dangerous parts of the business. We bought a house, single story, completely accessible, big yard for the future kids we'd started talking about. We built a life. On our first anniversary, I found out I was pregnant. I was terrified. My doctors had warned me that pregnancy with a prosthetic could be complicated. Balance issues, increased swelling in my residual limb, the need to adjust my prosthetic as my center of gravity shifted. But Cale's face when I told him, pure joy, pure hope, made it worth the risk. We'll figure it out, he said, his hand on my still flat stomach. We always do. Pregnancy was hard. My body, which already required daily maintenance with my prosthetic, rebelled against the extra demands. My residual limbs swelled more than usual. I needed multiple prosthetic adjustments. Some days I couldn't wear it at all. But Kyle was there for everything. Every doctor's appointment. Every bad prosthetic day. Every moment of fear and doubt. You're the strongest person I've ever met, he said one night when I was crying from frustration. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about not struggling. It's about struggling and doing it anyway. He kissed my forehead. You're creating a life while your body fights you at every turn. That's fucking heroic. Our daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday in March. 7 pounds, healthy lungs, her father's gray eyes. We named her Anastasia after Cale's grandmother. When they placed her in my arms, I looked at this perfect, tiny human and thought about how she'd grown inside a body everyone told me was incomplete. I thought about how I'd believed I was unchoseable. I thought about all the people who'd walked away. And I thought about Cale, who'd walked toward me instead. She's perfect, he said, tears streaming down his face. She is. So are you. It's been 5 years since I met Cale in that post office. 4 years since we got married. 2 years since Anastasia was born. We have a second child now. A son named Alexei, after Cale's uncle who became like a father to him. Cale's completely out of the dangerous parts of the business. He runs legitimate companies, mentors young men trying to get out of the life, donates to prosthetic research and accessibility organizations. I run a nonprofit that provides prosthetic care and adaptive equipment to amputees who can't afford it. We still live in the house with the big yard. Pixel is ancient and cranky. Anastasia is learning to read. Alexei is learning to walk. Life is messy and chaotic and nothing like I imagined when I was 24 and convinced I was unchoseable. Sometimes, late at night when the kids are asleep and the house is quiet, Cale and I sit on our back porch and talk about how far we've come. Do you ever regret it? I ask him. Leaving the life? Not for a second. Do you ever regret taking a chance on me? Never. Even with everything that came with it? The danger, the fear, the complications? I think about the break-in, the week in the safe house, the constant awareness that his past could come back. Even with all of that, because you're worth it, I take his hand. And because you taught me something important. What's that? That being chosen isn't about being perfect or easy or convenient. It's about someone seeing all of you, the hard parts and the complicated parts and the incomplete parts, and deciding you're worth it anyway. He pulls me close. You were never incomplete. You were always whole. I just helped you see it. You did more than that. You chose me when no one else would. You made me believe I was worth choosing. You are worth choosing. Every day, every moment, you're worth choosing. The next morning, Anastasia asks me about my prosthetic. Mama, why is your leg different? It's the first time she's asked directly. I sit down with her and take off my prosthetic so she can see it. Because I was in an accident when I was younger, and the doctors had to remove part of my leg. So now I wear this prosthetic to help me walk. She touches it carefully. Does it hurt? Sometimes. But that's okay. Everybody's body works differently. Yours works one way, mine works another way. And Papa loves you with your robot leg? I smile. Papa loves me, including my prosthetic. It's part of who I am. Okay. She considers this. I love you with your robot leg too. It's cool. My heart swells. Thank you, baby. She runs off to play, already bored, with the conversation. Kale comes up behind me. She's going to grow up knowing that love isn't conditional, that bodies are just bodies. I hope so. She will. Because that's what we're teaching her. He kisses my temple. Just like we're teaching Alexi. Just like we'll teach any other kids we have. You want more kids? With you? I want everything. Later that week, I get a letter. It's from a woman named Sarah who found my nonprofit through a recommendation. Dear Elena, I'm writing because I need to tell you something. I'm 23 years old. I'm an above-knee amputee. For the last 2 years, I've been convinced that no one would ever choose me, that my prosthetic made me unchoosable. Then I found your organization. I saw your picture on the website. I read your story. About the accident. About starting over. About finding love. And I realized something. You found someone who chose you, who saw past your prosthetic to who you really are. If you could find that, maybe I can too. Thank you for showing me that it's possible. Thank you for being visible. Thank you for not hiding. With gratitude, Sarah, I show the letter to Kale. This is why you do it, he says. This is why you tell your story, even when it's hard. I just want people to know they're not unchoosable, that the right person won't see their disability as a deal breaker. You're changing lives, Elena. We're changing lives. Together. That night, after the kids are in bed, I think about everything that led me here. The accident that changed my body. The years of rejection that broke my heart. The moment Kale handed me those apples and saw me as a person, not a problem. Every choice we made after that. Every risk. Every moment of choosing each other. I think about the girl I was at 24. Lonely. Convinced she was worthless. Protecting herself from wanting too much. I wish I could go back and tell her, someone is coming. Someone who will see you. Someone who will choose you not despite your prosthetic, but including it. Someone who will love every part of you, even the parts you think make you less. Hold on. He's coming. But I can't go back. I can only be here, in this moment. In this life I built with a man everyone feared but who taught me what it means to be chosen. Kale finds me on the porch, lost in thought. What are you thinking about? He asks in Russian, then switches to English. What troubles you? Nothing troubles me. I'm thinking about how lucky I am. Lucky? Lucky that I went to that post office. Lucky that you noticed me. Lucky that you saw me. Elena. He takes my face in his hands. There's no luck in what we have. You earned every bit of this. You earned it by being exactly who you are. Strong, resilient, brave enough to take a chance on someone like me. Someone like you. A man with a violent past, a dangerous present, a complicated future. You're so much more than that. Only because you showed me I could be. We sit together in the dark, holding each other, listening to the sounds of our sleeping children through the monitor. This is what worth means, I think. Not perfection, not convenience, not ease. Just two people seeing each other completely and deciding that everything, the danger, the complications, the hard days and the harder nights, is worth it. Kale chose me when I was unchosen, loved me when I thought I was unlovable, saw me when I was invisible, and in doing so, he taught me the most important lesson I've ever learned. Being different doesn't mean being less. It just means you've survived something that tried to change you. And sometimes, if you're very fortunate, you'll find someone who sees your differences and thinks they're beautiful. Not because they make you strong, but because they make you you. At 24, I thought no one would ever choose me. I was wrong. Kale Volkov chose me. Every day, in every way that matters. He chooses me, and I choose him back. That's not a fairy tale. That's not luck. That's just love. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. The kind worth fighting for.